So it's another beautiful day on the Battle for Azeroth Beta, and today we're taking a look at the Frost Mage. So the Frost Mage is pretty much the same as it is in Legion gameplay-wise, but a few things have been added and some polishing's been done. But yeah, otherwise still the same proc-based Iceland spam you either hate or love. So I'll be going over all the changes to our spells, abilities, talents, and my thoughts on the current gameplay. Mind you, this is beta, so it's subject to change, but it will probably not change all that much. And if you like these kind of videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let's get on with the video. So starting off with these spellbook changes, Brain Freeze has been bumped up baseline to 25% instead of 15, and Fingers of Frost is now 15% baseline up from 12. Some more procs, everybody. Awesome change in my opinion, less time spent Frostbolt spamming. And we got a new fancy water elemental. It's a updated model to fit the overall theme of this expansion. But apart from the new model, they've also taken away our water jet. So you can no longer reliably proc a couple of Fingers of Frost with the help of your elemental. And our mastery has been reworked a little bit, so now when you cast Frostbolt or Flurry, you gain an icicle instead of just when you cast Frostbolt. And up to 5 icicles can be stored, and any icicles gained after 5 is launched automatically. And using Ice Lance causes all your current icicles stored to begin launching at your target. And each icicle deals X amount of damage, and on top of this it also increases the damage of frozen orb by a baseline of 15%. All in all, very solid change. Taking away the water elemental damage was a smart move due to a lot of people not using their elemental, which made that part of the mastery just a dead stat. And our raid buff Arcane Intellect is back, so you infuse the target, party or raid with brilliance, increasing their intellect by 10% for 1 hour. So yeah, not a whole lot of changes to our base toolkit, just a bit of polishing really. And I think that pretty much covers our base toolkit, so let's take a look at our talents. So starting off with the 15 row, we have Bone Chilling, Lonely Winter, and Ice Nova. So Bone Chilling, whenever you attempt to chill a target, you gain Bone Chilling, which increases spell damage you deal by 0.5% for 8 seconds. So it's pretty much just a damage boost, a bit of a hassle to keep up between packs at times, but on bosses it's pretty much up at all time. And Lonely Winter, if you for some reason don't want to see the new awesome water elemental animation, so it takes away your water elemental, but your Frostbolt, Ice Lance, and Flurry deal 25% increased damage due to it. So I mean, it all depends on scaling here. In Legion, this was the go-to talent for most cases, as far as I remember, at least in Antaurus it was. Pretty boring talent overall due to losing your elemental and just gaining a flat DPS boost. But what you gonna do? And Ice Nova, on a 25-second cooldown, causes a whirl of icy wind around the enemy, dealing X amount of frost damage to that target. And also X amount of damage to all other enemies within 8 yards, and it freezes them in place for 2 seconds. So for AoE and world content, this one feels pretty good at least. Eases up kiting, and it does a fair amount of damage as well. Moving on, we have the 30s. So we have Glacial Insulation, Shimmer, and Ice Floes. So Glacial Insulation, Ice Barrier increases your armor by 200% while active, and Ice Block applies Ice Barrier when it fades. I mean, it feels pretty nice, at least when you're questing, getting even more survivability during your ice barrier. So taking a look at Shimmer, it's same as before. It replaces Blink, gives you 2 charges on a 20-sec recharge. It teleports you 20 yards forward unless something is in the way, like a tiny pixel that no one sees. It's unaffected by the GCD, and you can use it while casting spells, and it won't interrupt it. And this one, it's so damn comfortable to play with. You get used to it so damn fast. It's just great. And let's take a look at Ice Floes. So it's on a 20-second recharge and you get 3 charges. It makes your next spell with a shorter cast time than 10 seconds castable while moving. And this one is unaffected by the global cooldown and usable while casting. Again, pretty comfy to play with, but not as comfortable as Shimmer. So I mean, it's all up to your personal preference here really. Shimmer or Ice Floes for mobility, and Glacial Insulation for more survival. So moving on to the 45 row, we have Incanters, Flow, Mirror Image, and Rune of Power. Incanter's Flow. Magical energy flows through you while in combat, building up to 20% damage increase. And then it diminishes down to 4%, cycling this every 10 seconds. So like 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 16, etc. So sometimes you do more, sometimes you do less. Works pretty damn good for Frost due to being able to save procs a bit so you can mash them out when you're at 20%. And Mirror Image. On a 2-minute cooldown, it creates 3 copies of you nearby for 40 seconds, and they cast spells and attack your enemies. So you pop them and you do more damage. Not much to say really, it looks cool. And then there's Rune of Power. On a 40-second recharge, you get 2 charges and you place a Rune of Power on the ground for 10 seconds, which increases your spell damage by 40% while you stand within it. And it lasts for 8 seconds. So you want to pop this when you're able to do a bit more damage. So during cooldowns or burst windows, or when you have a few stacks of Ice Lance and Flurry. I mean, for me, Incanter's Flow just feels a lot better as a Frost Mage. Rune of Power is good but a bit clunky. Mirror Image looks cool, but Incanter's Flow just works better with all the procs. And taking a look at the 60s row, so we have Frozen Touch, Chain Reaction, and Ebon Bolt. So Frozen Touch, Frostbolt grants you Fingers of Frost and Brain Freeze 20% more often, so your Ice Lance and Flurry procs. More procs, more spam, and less Frostbolts. And Chain Reaction, your Ice Lances against a frozen target increases the damage of your Ice Lance by 3% for 10 seconds. And this stacks up to 5 times, so as long as you get some Fingers of Frost procs, this should be up pretty much at all time, giving you a hefty boost to your Ice Lance damage. And Ebon Bolt, our old artifact power. On a 45-second cooldown, you launch a bolt of ice at the enemy, dealing X amount of damage, and it grants you Brain Freeze. Ebon Bolt felt really nice to play with in Legion, and it's still pretty damn nice in BFA, getting a few extra flurries out during an encounter. As for the best talent, it's hard to say. Frozen Touch might see some use in the early state of BFA. Chain Reaction looks like the best one on paper though, but we'll see when all the tuning is done. Personally, I like Ebon Bolt the most gameplay wise, but other than that, I can't say much. And the 75 row, we have Frigid Winds, Ice Ward, and Ring of Frost. So, taking a look at Frigid Winds, all of your shilling effects slows your targets by an additional 15%, so kite away boys and girls, kite away. And Ice Ward, nice and simple. Frost Nova now has 2 charges, so keep your enemies at bay a little bit more. And lastly, Ring of Frost. On a 45-second cooldown, and you summon a Ring of Frost for 10 seconds. Enemies entering or in the ring are incapacitated for 10 seconds, with a maximum of 10 targets. Any more than that, and some of them will run free. And this row, again, it largely depends on your preference. Frigid Winds is pretty nice for overall solo play, and to some extent in dungeons, being able to help your tank a bit, slowing the mobs so you can have an easier time kiting. And Ring of Frost is always good for kiting or being able to interrupt large packs with the in-cap effect. Moving on, the 90s, so we have Freezing Rain, Splitting Ice, and Comet Storm. So Freezing Rain, Frozen Orb makes Blizzard an instant cast, and it deals 35% more damage for 12 seconds. Pretty nice for heavy AoE, being able to crank out those instant cast blizzards. And Splitting Ice, so your Ice Lance and Icicles now deal 5% increased damage, and they also hit an additional nearby target for 80% of their damage. This also applies to Ebon Bolt and Glacial Spike if you talent into those. And this has often been the go-to talent for single target and cleave. Ice Lance does a tremendous amount of damage, so being able to split that, it just ramps up your AoE by so much. And Comet Storm, on a 30-sec cooldown, you call down a series of 7 ice comets on and around the target, dealing X amount of damage to all enemies within 6 yards of its impact. It does a shit ton of damage on AoE and an okay amount for single target. As for myself, I'd go Splitting Ice if it's for 1 to 3 targets, and Comet Storm for anything more than that, but we'll see again when all the tuning is done. And the last row, so we have Thermal Void, Ray of Frost, and Glacial Spike. So, Thermal Void, Icy Veins duration is increased by 10 seconds. And your Ice Lances against frozen targets, so with Fingers of Frost procced, extends your Icy Veins by an additional 1 second. And it feels really rewarding to play with this talent, having your big haste cooldown up for a much longer duration, pumping out more Frost Bolts, which in turn leads to more Ice Lances, which leads to an even longer uptime on Icy Veins. Moving on, we have Ray of Frost. It has been moved to this row now, so on a 1.3 minute cooldown, you channel an Icy Beam at your target over 5 seconds, dealing X amount of damage every second, and it slows your target by 75%, and each time Ray of Frost deals damage, its damage and slow is increased by 10%. On top of this, it also generates 2 charges of Fingers of Frost over its duration. And I'm personally not a huge fan. I mean, it's okay gameplay wise, a lot better now that you get 2 Fingers of Frost from it, but at the moment it doesn't do a whole lot of damage and it's just not that much fun to play with. I pretty much use it to get some Fingers of Frost procs, but we'll see what happens when the tuning is done on this one. And lastly, we have Glacial Spike. It's on a 3-second cast and you conjure a massive spike of ice that merges all your current icicles from your mastery into it. And it impales your target, dealing X amount of damage plus all the damage from your icicles, and it freezes the target in place for 4 seconds. You need to have 5 icicles up to be able to cast this, and your Ice Lance no longer launches your icicles for you. So this for me is the talent that is the most fun in this row. I mean, tracking your icicles and firing away a huge ice spike that does a tremendous amount of damage. Again, tuning wise it's hard to say, but it's just a lot of fun to play with. As for the other two, Thermal Void is in a good spot. Ray of Frost is just a little bit so and so for me, but again, that's personal preference. So a few final words on the current Frost Mage. As I previously mentioned, they are very much the same as in Legion. So if you enjoyed them in Legion, you will enjoy them in Battle for Azeroth as well. All in all, the few changes and reworks they've made make sense to me, increasing our AoE a bit and giving us a bit of a faster pace with more Fingers of Frost and Brain Freeze procs. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this look at the Frost Mage. If you have any questions at all, make sure to hit me up in the comments below. I try to answer any and all questions as well as I can. And as always, if you like these kind of videos and want to see more, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave me a like, and ring that notification bell and switch it to all. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.